Hello everyone. Welcome to JiraCon 22. This is Janaki from Trundl, and I'm having along with me Jacob Issac, and we are going to speak today about how to increase Jira efficiency with automation, how you can save your time with your automations. So Jacob, can you start your quick introduction?
Sure. Thank you, Janaki. As Janaki said, my name is Jacob. I work for Quartic.ai. I head content, and I'm also the ISO internal auditor and the Jira manager for Quartic.ai. A little bit about Quartic. We are a software as a service company. We're headquartered in Oakville, Canada, and San Jose, USA. Our ultimate goal is to make process manufacturing autonomous. And we hope to accomplish that with our software, the Quartic.ai platform. Our customers are mainly Fortune 100 and 500 process manufacturing companies. If you'd like to learn more about us, please visit us at Quartic.ai. So our talk is titled How to Automate Jira and Increase Efficiency. And the point that I will be making is just that. Jira has the potential to significantly improve the efficiency of your software development workflow. So here's a fact. Jira has been saving us about 4 hours per week per person. So we have about 30 people in our development team. And so the time saved for just over a year since we've been using Jira is about 120 man hours per week. And that's a conservative figure. How did we get here? So, well, we had the problem that we faced was we were unable to meet our delivery schedule. And the deliverables that we were making had a lot of bugs. And so our goal was very clear: speed up delivery, make sure we meet our time deadlines, and also improve the quality of our deliverables. Fewer bugs, and actually we were aiming for no bugs at all. And so the approach that we adopted at that time initially as a quick fix was highly inefficient. We used to use Confluence pages to keep a track of what was done in the previous week, what the various teams in development are doing this week, and what is planned for the next week. As you can see, this is highly inefficient way to go about doing things. And if the real problem when we thought about it is actually an economic one. And as one economist put it, the study of economics is basically the study of how to efficiently use scarce resources that have alternate uses. And so here are the facts. We have limited personnel. They have limited time. And there are a set of tasks that, if performed, will produce maximum output for us with the best quality. So our goal is to ensure we want to find out what these tasks are and the optimal number of it. We don't want to overburden our personnel, but we also don't want to utilize our resources. So the all-important question is, how do we ensure that a small group of people in our development team spend their limited time working on the most productive tasks in order to achieve our goal? And our goal being, as I said, keep up the delivery schedule without compromising on quality. And so the key term here is most productive tasks. What are the most productive tasks? And so the solution was to build processes. We figured that early on, and to align our incentives based on economic principles. And as renowned economist Thomas Sowell said, incentives matter more than intentions, and your outcomes matter more than resources. So it doesn't matter whether you have 10x developers in your team. If you don't have a clear direction, if there's no clear process in place, you will be wasting their talent. And so good processes are, I think of them like Elon Musk's transit tunnels. They make it really easy to get from place to place really fast. But bad processes and we tried those, are mostly like policies. They tell you what to do, but they remain on paper. And it's like, this trying to put up a birds, no flying, no flying warning for birds, which is ridiculous. So here's what we found when building processes, what we need to keep in mind, and how we need to align our processes with, good incentives. So first is the order. The first thing we need to do is build steps. What do we want? Like from start to finish, what is the workflow that you need? So for example, this is a illustration of what our workflows used to look like. This was right at the beginning when we just started building Jira workflows, but it gives you an idea of what you first need to do is lay out the steps. So for example, we figured that design was spending a lot of time reworking on designs, because they would build the mockups and the HTML, send it over to engineering, and then engineering would say, well, this is not implementable, or we don't have the bandwidth to implement this design. Could you rework on the design? So design would have to go back to their drawing boards, rework on the mockups, and then come up with another design. So to avoid that, what we did is have engineering look at the wireframes, which is the row-level design, and approve that these can be implemented. And only once they give the approval would design go ahead and build the mockups, the high-level design. So we figured out what these steps were that we wanted in the process for various teams, and we laid them out before we started using Jira extensively, we used a project which had the default issue types and about 7 different statuses. So as you can see, 4 different issue types: epic, story, bug, task, and subtask. I think that's 5, and 7 different statuses for the entire development process. After we spent some time thinking about what we need to improve quality and efficiency, we came up with this, which is about 15 unique issue types and 79 unique statuses. And so after we've laid out the steps, another very important thing for a good process is roles and responsibilities. A lot of time can be saved if everyone knows what they need to do for the day and for the week and for the month. We're currently at a stage where we can plan in advance, like 2 years in advance. And so it takes time to get there, but it can be achieved. The next thing about processes is rigidity. And like I mentioned, you want to have restrictions in place such that you don't have to rely on, you don't have to trust someone. So there's a very smart man once said, trust is depending on others to do the right thing when they can profit by screwing you over. So you don't want to do that. Maybe in your team, you don't have bad actors and everyone's great, but they are still susceptible to human errors and oversight. So for those reasons, you want automations in place such that they have no other option but to do the right thing. And this is where automations come in. So as I mentioned, the policies that we try to implement or processes that we try to implement without Jira look something like this, all on paper, but the problem was they remained on paper. So a few examples of what automations are is minimal transitions. You don't, it helps to not have too many transitions at a particular state. Make it easy for your users, one forward, one backward, no other place that they can go to. That itself, saves a lot of time and effort trying to figure out where the issue needs to go to next. The next is you can have other restrictions in place where you have assignee privilege. So only the assignee can change the status of an issue. What this does is it creates an incentive for users to do their job really well, because as you know, Jira is immutable. Everything that's recorded cannot be retracted unless the issue type is deleted. But if it's not deleted, everything is visible forever, technically. So let's say we have, I write a draft and I send it for review, and the editor in charge of reviewing the draft sends it forward, approves the draft, but later on errors are found. Who's responsible? The editor, because it was his job to ensure that, you know, big blunders are not there in the draft. And so there is no question of accidentally moving the issue forward or backward or any mistakes, because it's only the assignee who can move it forward or backward. Another automation that you can have is completion of forms. So our ISO standards require us to investigate certain parameters. And so these questions we've embedded into the issue. And only when, let's say, the QA team goes through and answers all of these questions, and we expect them to have done their research and answered them, only when they've answered them can they actually send that issue down the workflow or complete the issue or send it to its final stage. So again, these are restrictions in place that you know, help users do what is required instead of trusting that they will do what is required. Creation of issue type. This is another automation that you can add, where at a particular stage, an issue type is automatically created and sent to the right team, and you waste less time trying to do manual work, such as creating issue types, assigning it to the right person. If you plan all of this in advance and you automate it, it saves a lot of time. Iterative counters. This is one of the recent additions that we've had. Again, this is playing with incentives. So how this works is, if I have, if someone has a deliverable and they send it to, let's say Alice has a deliverable, she sends it to Bob for review, and Bob sends it back to Alice for review with comments as to what needs to be changed. Now, Alice, being hasty, doesn't read the comments too carefully and sends it back to Bob without completing what she was supposed to do. Bob sends it back again. So every time Bob sends the issue back to Alice, the counter keeps going up. So what this does in a way is it incentivizes the users to do their best job the first time around. Another automation that you can add is delegation function. The way this works is, let's say Alice gets a task at status A and she is busy, so she assigns it to Bob. Bob completes the task and sends it to Carol for review. Carol finds errors and sends it back. Now, when you send it back, previously, before we applied the delegation function, it would go to Alice. And Alice, let's say she's away on vacation or she's busy, she didn't check her board and doesn't realize that there is an issue come back to her. So maybe a day later, or maybe even 3 days later, she checks and she sees, oh, well, there's an issue on my board, but this was supposed to be meant for Bob because I delegated it to him. And so then she goes 3 days later trying to delegate it, but we've lost 3 days. So simple automations such as these can help save you a lot of time. And then, so this is the aspect of rigidity. The more restrictions you have, the better. But you don't want to go overboard. I'll come to the point about agility. But before that, let's talk about the board first approach. This is another thing that we use where we encourage every team to have one board. So even if they're dealing with multiple projects, they can see the issues from various different projects all in one board. So because everything is visible, there's less chance that they are not going to complete their task. And we expect our members to visit the board and start their day knowing what they need to complete for the day or for the week. And what this does is it encourages deep work. So once I know what is required of me for the day or for the week, I can actually turn off my notifications and go into focus mode. I don't have to worry about missing out on something, because everything is documented in the issue, and everything that I need to do is documented as issues in the board. So as long as I complete my task for the day, I can, I'm fine. And so we encourage deep work, because deep work produces quality work. And we live in an age which is so distracted. We constantly being pinged with emails, notifications, and different apps trying to get our attention. But the board first approach really works. Documentation hygiene. So this is another aspect. Not everything can be restricted and you can't validate everything. But there are some things that are just good practices that your team needs to, that your team would do well to implement. So for example, making sure all the important communication is on the ticket itself rather than on Slack messages. Simple things like that can go a long way when you want to retrieve some information. Moving on. Flexibility. So this is something we learned over time, that you don't want to make it too rigid where there are too many gatekeepers and you're slowing down the process a lot. You want to be able to allow engineering, let's say, to begin work if they have the bandwidth without depending on the team that goes before engineering, which in our case is design. So we expect our HTMLs to be completed before engineering can start work. But if engineering has bandwidth, they have the flexibility to start work before itself. And so there are certain issue types that, so another thing is that we have is a story. All its subtasks need to be complete before the story can be sent to the next stage, the next status. But some issue types we have in our work, in our project, we allow the story to go forward even if it's not complete, because something like the pre-release bug, there is more time to work on it, but we still allow the parent issue to go forward. So simple things like this can go a long way in speeding up the process and improving efficiency. So as a result, what happens is there's no need for unnecessary communication, which is a major source of inefficiency. And management can easily monitor what each team is doing. Team leads can monitor what each members are doing. It's extremely easy to analyze and find the root problem of bugs or delays once all of this is in place. So this is how our management, we use an add-on called structure, and so our management can use this to plan years ahead, and our teams don't have to go back to them every now and then to ask what they need to pick up next. This is the board that the management looks at. They have things that is in long-term discussions. They don't have to, this is probably 2 years out from implementation. Then once it's time, once they decide that this needs to go in for development, they select it for development, they see that, okay, it's in progress, and finally it gets shipped. So one board to see what's happening, the big picture. Just to run through the high-level overview of our development process, as I mentioned, we have about 15 different issue types. And so if I start with, let's say, the epic, we use the epic simply as a knowledge base, a knowledge repository for applications in our platform. So our AI and machine learning platform has multiple applications that our customers can use. And so we track all the information about an application and the platform is tracked in the epic. So all the engineering documentation, all the design documentation, all the links that someone requires to learn everything about that application is in the epic. That's how we use it. The feature is basically a change request. This is how we send in major change requests for the development team to implement into the platform. And then we have the story, which is how the feature is broken down, but the parameter is the epic, the application. So we break down features based on application. If a feature is going to affect 3 different applications in the platform, then a feature is broken down into 3 stories. Then we have the release. Release is another issue type that we use basically to batch the standard issues like story, bug, release notes, support. And so that after a certain stage, there's no need to individually move the issues because everything is tested in bulk. So we can just move the release forward and save more time. This is another way you can save time. So the release should not be confused with the release versions. That is a native feature in Jira. And so this is how, the story, it begins with ideation. Once a feature is created, it's selected for development. Stories are automatically created based on the application. At ideation stage, we have a group of people that's in charge of filling in all the details as required for the design and engineering team to complete their work. The review stage after ideation is just to ensure that everything is actually present for the subsequent teams to work on. And finally, it lands in the design bucket. Once it lands here, design go ahead and create their design subtask, and that has its own journey. Design scoping, wireframe review, and like I mentioned before, after wireframe review is sent to engineering to ensure that the designs can be implemented. Once they give the approval, mockups are created. Mockup is also reviewed. It's sent to content for content review. At this stage, content steps in because they have enough material to start working on creating the documentation. So they have their own workflow, number of steps for the content subtask to get completed. Once design completes, the design subtask completes its journey, which is HTMLs, the story automatically moves to the engineering phase. And engineering go ahead, create their engineering subtasks, which have their own workflows. QA subtask is also created around the same time, which also has its own workflow. Once all of these subtasks reach the end, the testing phase begins. And that's when we have the release issue type, which bundles all of these standard issues that are meant for a particular release into one issue type, and we send it forward. Once release reaches its last stage, the feature which was in progress, which I showed you earlier on, moves to its last stage, shipped. So, and as you can see, this is what the feature board looks like, as I showed you earlier on. So the conclusions are, as I said, incentives matter more than intentions, and outcomes matter more than resources. So, one does well to incorporate principles of economics that really work, that align incentives in a way that is good for the software development process. So division of labor, divide your work as much as you can. If you're a startup and you're a small team, you have to wear multiple hats, and that's understandable. But as you grow, it's good to specialize and to divide labor and create clearly defined roles and responsibilities. Promote deep work, minimize trust. Wherever you can automate, automate. And regarding Jira, you need an ITS, an issue tracking system, to implement a process. Otherwise, processes just remain policies on paper and they are ineffective. Jira has a lot of benefits. There are many other ITS tools out there like Jira, but if you want high automation, high levels of automation, Jira is the way to go. Jira can be difficult because it's not very intuitive. They can really work on the design. If Atlassian, you're listening, you can make it more intuitive, but it is understandable because Jira is so vast. there are so many things happening. There are so many different features, and everything is customizable. And so it is understandable that, Jira has a moderately high learning curve. And so it's highly recommended that you partner with someone like Trundle, who can guide you and help you along the way. And we would highly recommend Trundle because we have benefited a lot. We would not have been able to do this on our own. We in fact even considered hiring a Jira expert to join our team full time, but that wouldn't be a wise strategy, because the way it functions, for example, Trundle has so many different employees working on so many different aspects of Jira, such that if one person doesn't know something, they can always reach out to an expert in another area and then come up with a solution. So bottom line, partner with Trundle. Regarding workflows, when you're building workflows, embrace the process. It took us 7 iterations to get to where we are, and over 1.5 years. So you're not going to get the best process overnight. It's not going to fall in place. There's going to be bugs. You're going to discover loopholes that you didn't think about when you're trying to implement an automation. All of that will come to light with time. So enjoy the process and keep building. Unique statuses as much as possible. This is another key thing that I've learned. I know Atlassian recommends only 7 statuses per workflow, but what I've noticed, what helps is if you're posturing yourself for specialization, you create statuses based on what is a task you would like someone to do dedicatedly, because the more you do a task, the better you get at it. And that is why specialization works. But so if you create those the workflow, keeping that in mind, that someday you will have someone who will take over this process or this particular status, and the task assigned to the status, it will work well for you. And finally, if automate as much as you can. If you see a pattern, try to automate it. Jira allows a lot of so many different ways you can automate things. So the sky is the limit. I mean, it's just, you need to think creatively and implement the automation. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much for your time. I will now hand this over back to Janaki.
Thanks, Jacob, for sharing your valuable input. How Jira automation helped to save your time and stress by automating each process. Thanks for the feedback. And I'm going to speak about how can you write your own automations, what you require to write your automations. So I hope you are able to see my screen. Firstly, there are 2 types of automations. One is a global level automation and second one is a project level automation. So global level automation is nothing but if you wanted to run the tool, execute the rule more than one project, you wanted to apply the rule for more than one project, then it's a global rule. And if you wanted to restrict that rule for a specific project, then it's a project rule. Who can write a global rules? Global rules can be written only by a Jira admins, but a project rules can be written by a normal project admin who is having a admin access to their project. They can write their project rules. And see, if some project is having a global rule, it is still visible on their project rules section, but they will unable to edit those rules. Only a Jira admins can edit it. So what you required for writing a automations? For writing automations, basically, as I'm showing you, there are 3 things in an automation. One is trigger point, on what basis you wanted to write your automation. And second one is on what condition, only if certain criteria meet, then you wanted to write your, then you wanted to execute your automation. And whenever the event is happened and based upon the condition, what will be the action item that you wanted to do. So these are the 3 things. So there are few automations that I have written for you in my system to show you. So first, let me go with like assign issue based on priority. So if you see this automation, it is like when an issue is created, if an issue, I am writing this automation when issue is created. It means that this automation will run when the issue created is happening. When only at when the story, I mean, issue type is story and the priority is highest or high. Only if these two matches, then the ticket will get assigned to me. If not, if the even still the priority is high, sorry, the issue type is story, but the priority is not highest or high. In those scenarios, the issue will get assigned to some other person. So let me quickly show you how you can write this automation rule on your own. So if you see here, this is a project automation. If you have an admin access, you will have an option called project settings. And if you go there, you will have this automation. In this, you can just click on create rule button. Okay, in this create rule button, if you see, there is a first trigger point. Trigger point, as I mentioned you before, when you wanted to trigger this automation rule basically. So there are like a few couple of triggers that already Jira automation provides you. You can select whatever you want. But for this rule, I'm going to select like issue created rule, or you can just start searching by selecting here issue created. So the rule will be. Okay, now I wanted to run this automation rule when the issue is getting created, and I need to click on this state. Now the trigger point is completed. Now I wanted to do only if, for example, if I am keeping a trigger point as issue created, it will run, this automation will run every time whenever the ticket is getting created. But I don't want to run this automation rule every time. I wanted to run it only in a certain scenarios, like only when issue type is story and priority is only in those scenario I wanted to assign to one person. If not, then I wanted to assign it to a person only for a story issue type, not for other issue type. So in the scenarios I wanted to write this, I can make use of this conditions. Let me open this. If you click on this new condition, you will able to see like many types of conditions, like advanced compare condition, in the sense you can compare between two fields and if else and everything. So I am going to take a if else condition. Why I am taking a if else condition here is because even though the issue type is a story, if priority is high, then I wanted to assign it to a one person. If priority is medium, then I wanted to assign it to a different person. Instead of writing the two different automation stories, I am taking a if else. So where you can combine those things in a single automation. So if else, and if you see here, all add conditions, and I am taking issue fields condition. Here also you can write a JQL or advanced compare related issue condition, but I'm in this, I'm taking my issue fields condition. Issue fields condition, and I'm taking as issue type. So issue type equals to story. And next condition is again issue fields condition. Priority is one of highest. See, there is like, you can have like equals to is one of, is not one of, everything. If you take a equals to, you can select only one option. If you take like is one of, then you can select more than one option in this as a value. Then I am just saving it. So this is how I can. So I wanted to mention you. So here I have written two conditions. If you see here, you can think what this means. So all conditions match in the sense whenever the ticket got created, the issue type should be story, and definitely the priority should be highest. Then only the action item will be done. If I put at least one condition matches, either the issue type may be story and either the priority may be high. At least if one is correct, this rule will get run. So this is what I'm putting all conditions. Then add component. Add component is the action item that I wanted to do when the issue is created. And so there are like new action items, a couple of action items that we can do. Here I am taking a assign issue. So I wanted to assign it to a specific user. So if you see here, there are like, if you see here, you can assign it to a person from a group. You can assign it to a person from a role or defined list. For example, if you are saying assign it from a group, we will have a separate some set of users in a group. We can assign it them based upon a balanced workload. Balanced workload in the sense, if I am having a two tickets and the other person in that group only have a one ticket, so the ticket will get assigned to that person instead of me, because based upon the workload. You have a random in the sense the ticket will get assigned in a random, and you have a round robin in the sense one ticket for me, one ticket for you, and one ticket for the next person who is present in this group. So this is how, and apart from that, you can also write your own smart values. If you hear, you can copy it from another field, or you can write your smart value in the sense, if you wanted to assign the ticket to a reporter, so that you can use a smart value with a curly brackets, or else if you wanted to use, for example, if we have a like any, let's say if we have any user picker field, and in that user picker field you have stored one username, and if you wanted to write assign the ticket from that user picker field, you can write a smart value like you can write your smart values like issue dot custom issue dot fields that custom field with our ID. So this is how you use smart values. So this custom field, this is the custom field ID of your user picker field. Now I am just taking it as a specified user. So if I am having only one specific user, that ticket needs to get added, then I will take this. So now, and I need to click on save, then only that action item will get saved. And if I wanted, now I have written priority is of highest. Now I wanted to assign this ticket if priority is medium to other person and issue type is equals to store. And in the same scenario, we can click on this on end else condition, and the same how you can write like issue fields condition. You can also write a JQL condition, but as you all know, JQL condition, we need to put like operations correct, whether it should be an AND operator or a OR operator. So to avoid that confusions, and if you are not good with JQL, so you can go with the issue field condition. Even we can use a JQL condition as well, but I will prefer a issue field condition. So again, same issue type equals to story. And now again, issue field condition. Now I wanted to put a priority is not. If you see here is not, is one of, I have kept in up and I'm using is not one of highest. So at all the tickets, issue type is equals to story and the priority is not high, then this ticket will get assigned to a person who I am giving their name. And same like assign issue. Specific user, and let me check. And you need to give one name to your automation. Then only the automation will get saved, and you need to enable it, turn it on. You need to click on a turn it on option. Okay. This is how you can write your own automations. This is how you can build your automation for assigning the issues based upon any like custom field condition or issue type condition, priority, and whatever you want. Okay, let me go with the other use case. So until in this automation, we have seen that this automation is, we have the automation got actioned on the same ticket what we are working. But in the other, for example, let's say we are having one parent issue. When parent issue has done, when the parent issue has moved from one transition to a other transition, you wanted to move the parent subtasks to a done status. Or for example, if one issue has been moved from one transition to a other transition, you wanted to add a comment on linked issues. Or epic, if you have any epics, you wanted to add, you wanted to move the stories all. So now we are going to see the automation rule. How can we write a rule where the action item will be done on like related issues, not on the main issue that we are triggering. So if you see here, I have another automation rule here where I have created. This is like how can we add a comment on a linked issues. For example, when my story is moving from in progress to done, and I wanted to add a comment on a linked issues that are linked to that story. So how I can write that? So if you see here, I have written one automation. When issue transitioned from in progress to done and issue type equals to story. Now I wanted to run this rule on the issues that were linked to this story. I don't want to run this rule on the story itself. Now I wanted to run with the issues that are related to this, like linked issues. And on that linked issues, I wanted to add a comment the issue has been closed by initiated.display name. So this is what I wanted to achieve. So I will quickly show you how we can achieve this automation. So again, I'm clicking on a create rule. One thing I just wanted to highlight here is, for example, if I am having the same, even if that linked issue is also present in my same project, then we can write in a project automation. But if that linked issue belongs to some other project, not to the same project, then we need to go for a global automation. Here in this scenario, the project automation will not work if the linked issue is from a different project. Okay, now I am just taking my trigger point as issue transition. As I said you before, we have a lot of trigger points that Jira has provided. So I am taking when an issue has been moved to a done. And I wanted to apply it only for the story linked issues, because many issues will have a done statuses. I don't want to run this rule on everything. So I'm just putting like issue field condition. Issue type equals to story. Save. Then if you see here, we have an option called new branch. So in this, if you go to this new branch, there we will have options like branch rule or related issues. Here you can run your automation like whether on subtasks, whether on parent, or whether on the current issue, epic, or you can have a JQL or everything. So here I am taking as a linked issue. On a linked issues, in this as well, you can put your own conditions. And one more thing, in a linked issues, here we have all link types. If you wanted this rule specific to only link types, only like blocked by or cloned by link types, you can select it. If you don't want that specific condition, you can make be it as like all link types. And link types also, if you wanted to add any like conditions, only the linked issue should be like bug, only like QA. If you have those things, you can add your condition like how I showed you in a previous automation, or else here now I'm going to directly a new action. I don't want to put any condition there. Like I wanted to run this for all the linked issues. Now, so here in a new action, I'm putting a comment. So I wanted to add a comment. So here I can write my comment. As you see, as I shown you here, the trigger, these are a smart values, and you can find the smart values documentation. Atlassian provides a documentation of all the smart values that were there, and we can also create our own variables for the smart values. So here I am saying the trigger issue.key has been closed by initiated.display name. This states the trigger issue.key. It will provide you the issue key of this in progress to done, which where the story I have moved from in progress to done. Initiated.display name tells that who has moved from in progress to done. So basically it will look like that IR2 has been closed by Janaki Rachakonda. So this is how your comment displays it. So you can use, and there will be like, if you click on this, they will give like some sort of examples of what type of smart values you can do, like now and everything. You can look, play around with these automations. And the other automation that I wanted to show you is like adding an option in a custom field with the API. So you all know Jira automation is like highly customizable. It can be integrated with Slack. It can be integrated with Teams, GitHub, Bitbucket, or most of, I mean, whenever the ticket got created, if you wanted to get notified in a Slack channel, Microsoft Teams. So everything can be. So in this automation role, I am showing you like how can we write a, I mean, how can we use a webhooks in a, I mean, how can we use a REST APIs? How can we send a web request using a automation rule? So this is like this is my trigger point when an issue is created, and other is my custom field. Others is a custom field that I have in my instance. Then that field is not empty. Then I am sending a web request. So basically, how this helps is, for example, let's say we all have a I guess we all are available of, aware of a select list field. So in a select list field, we are going to add a few options, but let's say most of the times we don't know what are all the options that may be in a select list choice, so that we will put as a other option. So we, if you see here, now the options are Jira and other, and if I put as the other option, this the other option I wanted to add it as a Confluence. So now you wanted to add this other option, Confluence, into a type of application. How you can do this? So this is what this automation explains. This is what this automation explains. Let me show. Okay, so here when an issue is created, the other field that I am showing you in a previous step, when that other field is having a value, then I am send in an action item. You will find an action item called send web request. Here you need to find place your URL. This is what our Atlassian, our site URL, JiraCon 22. This is my URL, and API 3. Custom field 10064. So this 1064 ID is this is the custom field ID of my type of application, and this context 10165 is an ID of my this field context ID. This was my custom field context ID for this custom field, and here I need to put the authorization, and you can get your API token. You need to create your own API token from. You can create your API token from your id.atlassian.com user profile section. There you can create your API tokens, and content type as application JSON, and the method will be a post method, and the web request body will be a custom data. So in the URL, I am telling that where you need to get, where option needs to be added. So in a custom data, I have added some JSON format where you can add where you can, from where that value should come. This 10065 is an this 10065 is an custom field ID of my other custom field called other, and the 10064 is the custom field ID of type of application. If you see here, I'm having only Jira and other, and if I click on it, and if I click on this, and automatically my automation will add that Confluence as a value in a type of application field. So this is how automation works. Not only these use cases, we are having a lot of automations we can automate. It can save you time. It can save you stress. It will be like more easy, and 90% of your work, time can be saved by using automations. So you can just play around with this, and let us know if you have any queries. We are displaying our email IDs. Yeah, and thanks for joining our session, and I hope you have enjoyed this. Thank you.